He could not drive this McLaren as well as I do. Like, please, Lando, be serious. Good evening, race fans. I'm here pretty late at night for a change. You know I don't normally do this, but I thought I would come on here and chat for a little while, you know, because I like the drama that goes on in the paddock, and I feel like sometimes I want to talk about it without making it part of a Grand Prix review. But anyways, what I wanted to come out here and sort of talk about a little bit was this little like back and forth that happened between Lando and Max, sort of in this week leading up from the Japanese Grand Prix and into the Bahrain Grand Prix. Essentially, at the end of the Japanese Grand Prix, Max Verstappen came out to the media. They asked him about the McLarens and McLaren's, you know, seeming dominance this season. And Max said something along the lines of, I don't even want to think about what it would have been like if I had been driving that car. You wouldn't have even seen me. So of course they asked Lando to comment on it. And Lando responded with something kind of interesting. He said something along the lines of, you know, I have a lot of respect for Max and I think he's a great driver, but he's not better than us in many areas. And then he said he can borrow my McLaren anytime he wants, and I'll be excited to see the disappointment on his face when he gets out of the car. That's quite a statement, isn't it? And then more recently they asked Max, and the whole thing about him joking that he would be better in the McLaren, and Verstappen said, I was not joking. Did you think that was a joke? Because I was not joking. I would be much faster in that McLaren. And you know, you asked me a question about whether or not I would be good in that McLaren, and I'm responding to you honestly. So yeah, there was this little, we can't even call it beef, but I guess it was a mini beef. And I don't know, I just feel like when I heard Lando's comments, it just really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I understand that Lando is in a bit of an uncomfortable position because he is in the fastest car, by far the best car of the grid, right? But yet he's still not winning the championship by a lot yet. You know, Max is only 1 point behind him. So I understand that Lando is maybe in a bit of an uncomfortable position in that way, because he's maybe not extracting as much out of the car as he could or maybe should, arguably. But then another thing entirely is to deny reality. You know what I mean? Like, Lando, come on, let's be frank. The McLaren is a beast of a car, okay? It's a fucking rocket ship. And if you're not extracting the power out of it, that's kind of on you, my man. But don't be like, oh, nobody else could do this. And certainly not, you know, 4-time world champion Max Verstappen, literal Formula One driving machine. Nah, he could not do it. He could not drive this McLaren as well as I do. Like, please, Lando, be serious. And I don't know, it just all kind of felt like a parallel of those comments he made last year back in Brazil, when Max had that absolutely worldy drive where he went from, what was it, like P17 to P1, that insane drive. And Lando had this comment that was like, oh, that wasn't really skill. That wasn't really talent. What Max just did, that was just luck. I think it was because, you know, the race had a ton of like safety cars and red flags and stuff. And so a lot of the drivers did gain advantage from that. But to dismiss Max's insane race by just saying it's just luck is insane, right? And I think at the time we all agreed that's an insane thing to say. And I just feel like Lando keeps having this problem where he just keeps saying the absolute worst things just from, I don't know, like an overabundance of confidence or something. He just all of a sudden gets like really cocky, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm so good and Max could never actually do what I do, okay? Actually, what I'm doing is about as good as you can do it. And Max is overrated anyway, which is insane. As a 0-time world champion, to say that of a 4-time world champion is insane. Hey y'all, so I'm currently editing this video, and I can't believe I forgot another really great example of what I'm talking about, which was in last year's Hungarian Grand Prix when Oscar and Lando and Lewis were in the cool-down room, and Lewis was watching the McLarens and he was saying, oh my god, you guys are so fast. And Lando goes, well, you had a fast car 7 years ago. And Lewis just said, why are you getting like this? I just complimented your car. So I think that's another great example of Lando getting really defensive for no reason at someone with a lot more world titles than he does. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like Lando has this whole thing about how he's going to be the world champion, but he wants to do it kind of differently from everybody else, right? Like we have this image from history of like past world champions, and they're all like serious, determined, hungry people who will like not give up, and they will be as ruthless as they need to be on the track, you know, just to win. And they will stop at nothing, right? Max Verstappen is like that. Hamilton is like that. Vettel was like that. Schumacher was like that. Senna was like that. Everybody that we kind of have seen, right, in the past. And Lando's trying to do things his own way and being like, wait a second, I can be the world champion, but I don't need to be like that. I can be soft. I can be humble. I can be vulnerable. I can be funny. I can post memes online. I can Twitch stream. I can, you know, be open about my mental health struggles and all of this. And it's very refreshing and it's very nice. And I'm not faulting Lando for wanting that. Like, that's a cool thing to bring, a cool new perspective to bring to the old sport that is Formula One. But I feel like you gotta stay true to that, you know? I feel like whenever he makes these comments, he falls under this like pressure to be that archetype of the world champion. So he kind of adopts this like cocky persona that you can tell is not him, but I think it's just the pressure of like, oh, I need to be world champion. I can't be outdone, because these always happen whenever he's getting outdone by someone else, in this case Max, both times, right? I feel like whenever he is outdone, then he kind of becomes like that. Maybe he's a sore loser, or his ego is like wounded and he's like, oh, I need to like step up and show that I'm not a pushover or whatever, right? I'm not gonna be okay with Max doing better than me. So I think Lando is only really able to project that like good image of him when he is winning and things are going well for him. So Lando is in this like secure position where he doesn't have to be aggressive, he doesn't have to really fight, and he can be his like chill self. But the moment he's threatened like the slightest bit, he becomes this like asshole kinda, and he says things that are just kind of really out of pocket, especially when like he really has no right to be saying these things. Again, to a 4-time world champion. Like, it's crazy. I think he needs to just stop doing that. If he really wants to be that version of the world champion that he claims he's gonna be, then he needs to stop making these ridiculous comments. Especially when, again, he is just not in a position to make them. At least not yet. Maybe once he wins a championship, he might have some rights to say this stuff. But as of right now, it makes him look bad, and it makes him look like a sore loser, and just not really like this world champion that he wants to be, right? And the media will also twist so much of it. I just wish that he wouldn't like rise to the bait as much. And honestly, maybe take a page or two from Oscar Piastri's book, because holy shit, that little man will never fall for the media bait. Like, not once have I seen him answer like a provocative question. Like, I think this Friday in Bahrain, someone asked him something along the lines of, do you think you could drive in the Red Bull car? Like, how do you think you would do if you were in the second Red Bull seat? And Oscar was like, I'm sure driving that Red Bull is really hard. So personally, I'm really happy at McLaren, and I would not want to be in Red Bull. Like, I'm happy where I am. Like, see, that's a good answer. I'm not rising to this bait. I'm not going to like give you a headline or something spicy for you to put, you know, out there. I think Lando needs to adopt a little more of that attitude. And yeah, we will see how he does. I mean, it's looking likely that he will become world champion, so maybe he will just shut us all up. But still, I don't know. I feel like these comments are just really not making him look good and just making him come across as really petty and childish. So yeah, that's more or less everything I had to say. I might start doing some of these shorter videos from now on, just to sort of talk about smaller things that are going on in the world of Formula One, especially, you know, race previews, like things that are happening before the actual race, because sometimes there's not a lot of room to talk about that in the actual race review. So the vibe is a little off. It's a little more different than usual, but I don't know. I guess we can call it like RDC after hours or something, because it makes total sense for a cafe to be after hours. Expect a Bahrain Grand Prix analysis coming up either Sunday or Monday or maybe Tuesday. Thanks for coming to my RDC after hours little chit chat session, and I will see you all soon. Stay fueled, or maybe go to sleep. You know you need to catch up on sleep, so go do that. Okay, that's it. Bye.